If you're new here, my name is Rebecca. I'm a writer. I'm currently working on my debut literary fiction novel. I'm currently working on revising my debut literary fiction novel. Need to fix that. If you're new here, you will know that in about October of last year, I started drafting what I have been calling Project Eden after shelving the first book that I was writing. For that book, I managed to write 1.0 draft, and then I completely rewrote it to have a pretty coherent draft 1. That is where I did all of my developmental editing, and it truly was a much more cohesive story. And that's basically what I'm going to try and do for Eden. If you've watched any of my previous videos, you may know, but if you don't, I managed to get my first draft of this story to about 50,000 words. My goal for the first draft is around 60, so I underwrote it by 10,000 words, but that's okay because I already have a lot of ideas of how I want to beef this story up in ways that feel very natural to, I think, the story that I'm trying to tell. The goal for this next draft is about 85 to 90,000 words. I finished my draft about 2 weeks ago, came up with a revision plan, and now it's time to carry out said plan. And a lot of you may be thinking, Rebecca, 2 weeks isn't enough time away from the draft. Probably. However, one of the things that as a writer, I am constantly trying to balance is this idea of when to push myself and when to actually step back and take a break. And I was watching Alyssa's latest video, and she made a lot of really good points. And one of them being, which I agree with, is sometimes you don't always need to take a break or that big of a break. I think writing, as she mentioned, requires some momentum. And that's something that I really struggled with when I was drafting this story, because I drafted it in bits and pieces in November and only drafted it for like the first 2 weeks of December. And then it took me a while to get into it in January. And so I'm like, you know what? I have the momentum build up. I have the story fresh in my mind enough where I'm like, I know how I want to tell this now, and I'm excited to tell it the way I want to. So I thought, why not? I have the momentum. Now, I'm not jumping into this completely blind. There's a few things that I did. Number one, as you saw in my last video, I did build out kind of like a revision dashboard for myself. So there's a couple things that I did prior to this video that happened between my last video and now. Number one, I fully fleshed out my fun and game section. My Act 1 and my Act 3, I have a clear idea for the most part of how those two acts are supposed to go. But my fun and games has always been so difficult for me. And because I have about 3 different plot lines that all weave together to make the main plot line, I wanted to be very strategic about which plot points are supposed to go where. So I made a fun and games board for myself to remember when and where things are supposed to happen. I made a map of the town for myself because I'm like, hey, I should probably really be cognizant of where things are and where I'm saying things are. I also put together a little calendar of October and November in 1995 because that's when the story takes place. So I can keep track of what day it is, because the midpoint of the story is about Halloween, or it's around like Halloween. So I need to be sure that I'm like accurately building up to that. I've done a few things. I've also gone ahead and like reset up my Scrivener file. I have archived the old draft, and I still have it in there because I'm going to reference it from time to time. For now, we have basically like a clean slate, which actually like really excites me. And I also printed out the story. I was not going to, because I'm like, oh, you know, I really need to redo those first 8 chapters, which I thought I was going to have to scrap completely. But I think there's bits and pieces of them that I'd really like to retain. And so I printed it out so I could read them physically and see like what works and what doesn't. Sometimes I just can't read on a screen, you know? I've chatted too much. I said I was going to keep this short. Let's start revising Project Eden.
다녀왔어. 하루 lost you chasing you again. 잡힐 듯 스치듯 하루 미끄러져. You make me better than I've ever been. 온종일 너의 곁을 떠나기가 싫어. 어지러운 지금 이 느낌이 좋아. Right now 점점 더 빠져들어가. 내 숨이 차올라.
Hi guys, little bit of a different angle, but we're rocking with it, okay? I just finished up a roughly 2-hour writing session. I got here at around 9 and ended up writing until about 11:45. What time is it now? 11:45. Got a really good session in. I did stare at the page for like 30 minutes trying to come up with, a really good opening line, and then I just decided to say screw it and just to write. I knew where I wanted to open this story this time around, which is just like a little bit further than I started it last time. Basically, I started at chapter 2 instead of chapter 1 this time. And I got about, as you saw, a little over 2,000 words. About 500 of that was prose from the last draft. And when it comes to how I decide to use old writing, it's mostly setting related. Like, I feel like I actually do a pretty good job painting scenery and I think creating the setting. And so I really liked the work that I did on that in the early chapters of the first draft. So I did take some of that and incorporate it where it made sense for this writing session. This time around, I want to add a little bit more introspection from other characters. So for example, John Edward, who's Peter's dad, there's like a line or two that I added that I think give him some serious depth as both a character and a father that just shows that he's been very cognizant of the way that his son is for a very long time and that he's very in tune with his son's feelings, which I think add then to John's character because John is this very sweet behemoth of a man. Like, the closest that I can describe him is like when I think of like mannerisms and demeanor, I think of Zeus from Hercules. Not biblically accurate Zeus though. That behavior is for the streets. And John Edward is an angel. Yeah, definitely added his parents like a little bit more personality to his parents, which I think is saying a lot because I think they had a lot of personality before. I think this chapter needs about another 1,000 words. And that's one of the things that I'm really trying to be intentional about and like play around with in this round of writing. Sometimes I feel like 2,500 words is too short and it doesn't really let a chapter breathe or marinate sometimes. And I think for this story specifically, I need to let some things marinate where it makes sense. So it's going to be a longer first chapter, but I think it sets up a lot of things very well. And by the end of this chapter, we kind of almost immediately get to our catalyst, which is great. I want the setup to this story to happen rather quickly because everything happens in my fun and games section. Like, everything happens in that section. So I am very happy with how the progress is coming along. I think I'm going to do one more writing session today because I have nothing but time. I think I talked about this morning. My goal for this draft is 85,000. I do want to write a hefty draft for this story. And I put my deadline as I think the end of April. So in order to hit that without writing Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I have to hit at least 1,600 words a day on the days that I do write. That's flexible. I think I'm okay with that because I am going to be taking some parts of the old writing, and I may also be writing on Wednesdays because I don't have to go into the office those days starting February. Great writing session. I think I'm seeing the story a lot more clear, and this is like the fun part of revisions. I thoroughly enjoy revision. I know a lot of people hate it, but I feel like this is where I get to make the story really come to life, and I'm enjoying it so far. So I'm gonna go home and check in on my husband, and then I will check in with you guys later. Hi guys, it is much later. It is literally like just now 8 p.m. I have basically written for like 5 hours today. I did a 2-hour session in the morning and then I ended up doing a like 3-hour session in the afternoon. I just ended up writing with Ari in our authortube Discord. So I was writing. I've been wanting to get chapter 1 done at least for this video, and I knew chapter 1 was going to be long, but man, it got long. It got really long. It is roughly sitting at around 5,800 words. I will put the actual word count total here. It's very lengthy. It's very good. I'm actually like quite confident in the way I think I'm setting Peter's before situation up, but it's a lot more words. I think I'm used to chapters being quick and punchy-ish, and kind of like I get a lot of satisfaction from doing them quickly. But like I said earlier, I'm really trying to be like intentional about my chapters, and I think my writing style today has proven to me that I'm going to be able to beef up this novel in a really, really great way. I'm not gonna lie, my brain is a little fuzzy. It was honestly fuzzy after the writing session this morning, and I just decided to like keep going because I really wanted to finish chapter 1 for this vlog. Is it done? No, but it's like 95% of the way there. More than anything, I wanted to finish because I didn't want to lose any train of thought with it. I also should probably say that like part of the words for today's total, I would say about like 900 to 1,000 of it was me taking writing from the previous draft and working it into this draft. Mind you, I did cut away a lot of it and rework it to fit into the scenes that I'm building right now, but really strong writing day. I am exhausted. That took a lot out of me mentally, but I am really proud of the fact that I did write so much today, and I'm really excited to see how this book ends up shaping up. So there's one last thing I want to leave you guys with because I thought this was really funny. I was on a stream with Brielle and Cody a couple nights ago, I think Wednesday night, and because I had finished the draft and I didn't really have anything else to work on, I just decided to like doodle some characters. So this is the doodle of Peter that I did. He does look like James Potter. I can't deny that. But then everyone was kind of like, I think, just taken aback by the fact that I like draw, and honestly, that's how I started my creativity in the first place, was like with drawing. So I thought I would share with you guys some of my other artwork. So I'm going to put them up here for you guys so you can see them, but these are like this is a little bit of my work. I haven't drawn honestly in a really long time. Art was always like a really big form of like expression for me, and it's one of those things that I really kind of want to get back to this year. But I just thought that was a fun little piece of lore for you guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you made it to the end of the video, leave this little guy, because I don't know where you're at, but where I am at here in Illinois, it is so darn cold. It is so painfully cold. For the first time in my life, really looking forward to like spring and summer. If you like this video, if you like me, if you want to see more writing content, please feel free to subscribe. It's absolutely free. I post new videos every Saturday at 10 a.m. pretty much on the dot. Can't wait to keep sharing the rest of this revision journey with you guys. I think it's going to be fun. I am like so stoked. Until then, I will see you in the next one. Bye!